I am Tara T. Green, Professor of African American and African Diaspora Studies, and the Linda Carlisle Excellence Professor of Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. The African American and African Diaspora Studies program at UNCG is happy to partner with UNCG's Jackson Library, the Greensboro Public Library, and the Arts and Letters Committee of the Greensboro chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, of which I am also a proud member. To organize this big read, panel discussions, our community book reads, and other related activities for members of Guilford County's diverse communities. Our goal is to bring families together through reading. For those of you who are wondering what the Big Read is, let me provide you with a little more information. NEA stands for the National Endowment for the Arts. Through partnerships with state arts agencies, local leaders, other federal agencies, and the philanthropic sector, the Arts Endowment supports arts learning, affirms and celebrates America's rich and diverse cultural heritage, and extends its work to promote equal access to the arts in every community across America. In Greensboro, our Big Read initiative will focus on themes that are present in the novel Silver Sparrow, which was written by Tayari Jones. The novel is about a bigamist, a complicated man who marries two women and has a daughter by each woman. Jones tells the story from the perspective of each daughter. I won't give away too much more, but Jones captures the dynamics of families, its complications. She pushes us to consider what happens when secrets are kept in families, the roles of parents in guiding their children, how girls find and develop their voices, the pitfalls of not communicating properly within families. I'm an English professor, so I could go on, but I won't. In an interview, Tayari Jones says of her novel, "I hope that readers will come away from the book with a sort of tolerance for people who find themselves in complicated and messy situations." Please join community members in discussion about this intriguing novel. Free copies of the novel will be made available at the Greensboro Library and other sites around the county in early October, just in time for our first book discussion on October 20th, which you will hear more about. Due to COVID, we are not able to get the book circulated any sooner, but information will be posted on the AADS uncg.edu website. That's, if you want to Google it, the African American and African Diaspora Studies at UNCG. Our website has those details. For those who would like to support local businesses, copies may be purchased at Scuppernan's by appointment. So tonight, we will not be long, but you will hear from our community partners, state representative, local educator, and UNCG alum, Dr. Ashton Clemens, and then you will hear from our very own superintendent of schools, Dr. Sharon Contreras. Again, thank you for attending this event, and we hope that you will attend one of our upcoming book discussions or panel discussions. Please welcome Beth Sheffield of Greensboro Public Library. You're muted.
Thank you. Isn't that a wonderful thing about Zoom these days? Like I said, good evening, everyone. The Greensboro Public Library is honored to be a part of this project. The NEA Big Read program is so important. It gets our community reading. At the Greensboro Public Library, we believe in being data-informed, people-centered, and purpose-driven. One of the largest purposes of the Greensboro Public Library is spreading the joys of reading. Tayari Jones presents such a thoughtful novel. It provides great discussion, and I am so thankful for our partners at UNCG and Dr. Green for bringing us this project. Thank you so much.
Good evening. I am Linda Morris, and it is a pleasure to be with you as we launch this Big Read project this evening. It is an honor for me to speak on behalf of the Arts and Letters Committee of the Greensboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a sorority founded on the campus of Howard University in 1913. The Arts and Letters Committee's mission is to promote and support African Americans and others in our community through both visual and performance arts, as well as the written word. So a few years ago, we established a book club. We call ourselves the Red Hot Readers. And we soon discovered Tayari Jones' books in general, but especially Silver Sparrow. And I do believe, if memory serves me, that Dr. Green brought this book to our attention then. So some months ago, which seems like a lifetime ago now, when she told us that she would be applying for this NEA grant and asked if we would support her if awarded, of course, we said yes. So we are delighted to sponsor and support the sharing and the discussion of Silver Sparrow with the community, especially with all that's going on in the world today. As we find ourselves in the midst of a pandemic, reading and discussing books have become other ways to keep us connected as we distance from one another in other ways, and to bring some welcome distraction and joy to our lives. The Arts and Letters Committee of Greensboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated is looking forward to sharing in this big read. Thank you.
My name is Gerald Holmes, and I work in Jackson Library, UNC at Greensboro. You hear me?
Yes.
I'd like to introduce State Representative Ashton Clemens. State Representative Ashton Clemens was born in Alamance County, North Carolina. After graduating from UNC at Chapel Hill as a North Carolina teaching fellow, she taught school in Durham and Guilford counties and went on to earn her master's in school leadership from Harvard University. Most recently, Ashton Clemens received her doctorate of education from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. Her commitment to education led her to serve as principal of schools in Rockingham and Guilford counties. Representative Clemens was elected to serve in North Carolina's 57th House District on November 6, 2018, and was sworn in to office on January 9th, 2019. She is married to Brian Clemens and is the mother of 3 young children. Please join me in welcoming State Representative Ashton Clemens.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I hope that you are all doing well. Thank you so much, Dr. Green, for having me as part of this exciting kickoff for the Big Read, and certainly grateful to be able to speak for a few minutes before we get to hear from Dr. Contreras, who is leading our school system through quite a tumultuous time now. So thank you to Dr. Contreras as well. So I actually read Tayari Jones' first book earlier this summer, An American Marriage, and it was the first book that I have read of hers. And so this is an example of really how we can fall in love with authors, and this is what my children do. We just finished A Magic Tree House last night, and my daughter said, "Oh, Mom, let's read the last chapter, because I know in the last chapter what's going to happen." So I hope that this can give everyone an entry point to a new author, which is a lot of what education and reading is about, but that will inspire you to read some of her other stories. And so Beth is just reminding people to mute if they're not. Thanks, Beth. So, and the other point that I wanted to make about Silver Sparrow in general, I ordered it and read it in about 2 days. And the power of the book to me is the power of reading in general, which is to help us be able to find and think about other people's perspectives. So in this story, we have two daughters who are in really different situations, and one knows about the other sister and one doesn't. But what this story helps us do is understand both of their perspectives. And reading is all about that. How can we use literature to help us understand perspectives and lives and situations that are different than ours? And I think at its core, that's the best that we can do as readers and as learners. So I'm so happy to be part of this. I look forward to signing up for some of the discussions. And I believe I am turning it over to my friend, Ms. Best, to do an introduction of Dr. Contreras. Thank you so much for having me as part of tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Clemens. A passionate advocate for providing high quality education to all children, Dr. Sharon L. Contreras has spent nearly 30 years dedicating her life to ensuring every student graduates college and career ready and able to fully participate in our democracy. In 2011, she made her story when she became the first woman of color to serve as superintendent of one of the big 5 urban districts in New York State. She made her story again when she was sworn in as the first woman and first Latina superintendent of Guilford County Schools. From the moment she took on her new role, Dr. Contreras has been singularly focused on improving educational outcomes for every single student. She now leads one of the nation's largest school systems, and it is clear across Guilford County, across North Carolina, across the nation, that Dr. Contreras is on track to meet the goals she established upon accepting the role as superintendent. She has championed educational access for all students, and academic outcomes continue to improve under her leadership. She is widely respected throughout the country for her policy work to end racial disparities in education. Dr. Contreras is a member of Chiefs for Change and Education Leaders of Color, and serves on the Executive Council of the Council of the Great City Schools, and is founding co-chair of its task force on Black and Latina young women and girls of color. She is also a proud and active member of the Links Incorporated and Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. During her nearly 30-year career, Dr. Contreras has won countless awards for her civic work and leadership. In 2019, Dr. Contreras was recognized by the North Carolina Parent Teacher Association as the Superintendent of the Year, and also the 2020 Piedmont Triad Superintendent of the Year. This phenomenal woman spends each day cultivating a remarkable legacy, ensuring improved life outcomes for all students, the only outcomes that really matter. And now it is my esteemed pleasure to present to you the one, the only, Dr. Sharon L. Contreras.
Good evening, everyone. Wow, I feel like I can do this another 10 years. Thank you for that wonderful, wonderful introduction. It is my pleasure to be able to greet you all today and to share my thoughts about the power of literacy to bring families and communities together. First, thank you, Dr. Green of UNCG and Beth Sheffield of the Greensboro Public Library for your vision to participate in the National Education Association's Big Read Initiative. I deeply appreciate the Greensboro Public Library for your invaluable work in the community and partnership with the Guilford County Schools. Thank you to the African American and African Diaspora Studies Department at UNCG and UNCG's Jackson Library. I'd also like to thank members of my beloved sisterhood who are also sponsoring this event, the Arts and Letters Committee of Greensboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And a very special shout out to all of my incredibly gifted and talented Guilford County School students who are joining us as we read Silver Sparrow, a novel which will allow us to discuss the unique magic and challenges of Black girls in particular, and all of those who identify as girls in Greensboro, North Carolina. As superintendent of Guilford County Schools and the founding co-chair of the Council of Great City Schools Task Force on Black and Latina young women and girls, supporting young women is my passion. Anyone who knows me well, or even just a little bit, knows that I am an avid reader. And prior to the pandemic, which consumes my every waking moment and even my dreams, I read a book a day. I didn't have very much growing up, as I had 9 brothers and sisters. My parents had 8 children and adopted 2 special needs children. We didn't have a lot of clothes or lots of things. We slept 4 to a bedroom, but we all had library cards. I visited incessantly. I lived by the Erasmus quote, when I have a little money, I buy books, and if I have any left, I buy food and clothes. I always did well in school, but I must admit that I used to skip class. I know that's hard to believe. My high school English teacher was stunned to learn that I would skip class only to be found in an oversized chair engrossed in a novel at a public library. I could not help myself. Now that I can afford a few things, I buy books more than I buy shoes. And this year, I finally traveled to DC to get my library card from the National Library of Congress. Here it is. I cannot express how the power of words, how the power of reading can transform one's life, or be captivating, or simply take you from one place to another. I lost an arm on my last trip home, my left arm. Kindred, Octavia Butler, Call Me Ishmael, Moby Dick, Herman Melville. I am an invisible man. No, I am not a spook like those who haunted Edgar Allan Poe, nor am I one of your Hollywood movie ectoplasms. I am a man of substance, of flesh and bone, fiber and liquids, and I might even be said to possess a mind. I am invisible, understand, simply because people refuse to see me. Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. 124 was spiteful. Beloved by Toni Morrison. You better not tell, never tell nobody but God. The Color Purple, Alice Walker. It was the best of times, it was the worst of time. A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13, 1984 by George Orwell. And of course, my favorite, I found God in myself, and I loved her fiercely, for Colored Girls by Ntozake Shange. Listen, those first lines, reading can carry us off to distant lands, giving us a glimpse of the world without ever having to board a plane. The imagination is so underestimated. Reading is a bit magical because it can both stimulate and relax. We're living in the information age, which means that if we have access to electronic devices, we're constantly bombarded with lights, noise, and imagery that can be jarring and exhausting. Reading, I've found, can have a calming effect, like a massage for the brain. Reading black letters on a white page has the effect of stimulating our cognition without stressing it in the ways that video games and television or movies might do. Reading is truly fundamental, but the mere concept of literacy is actually laden with controversy, especially in American history. The US is one of only a few countries known to have ever created and enforced anti-literacy laws. In the mid-19th century in North Carolina, Black people who disobeyed the law were sentenced to whipping. Well, the laws have since changed, yet literacy is still a significant issue in American society. 43 million US adults possess low literacy skills. The NEA Big Read is addressing an American problem. We have an opportunity to unify around a common cause, and the Bennett Middle College is the perfect epicenter for this important initiative. You've heard the saying, educate a woman and you educate a nation. I may be biased, but I believe there is truth to that adage. I've always believed that. I have always known that words are magical, but growing up in the 1970s, there were very few books about young Black girls, and even fewer by and about Latinas. I remember reading and thoroughly enjoying Beverly Cleary and Judy Blume, but I fell in love with Cassie in Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. And my junior high teacher, Mrs. Hargrove, who passed away last year, introduced me to Harlem Renaissance writers, and I finally saw myself and became more confident in my identity. I majored in English literature in college as an undergraduate and as a graduate student, and fell in love with American literature, African literature, British literature, Latin American literature, and of course, literature written by my sisters. Literature with representations of Black women and Latinas who are beautiful, powerful, smart, whole, and lovable. As a community and as families, we have the opportunity to read Silver Sparrow together. I don't want us to be simply enlightened for a moment or to read to learn a bit about race. The power of reading together as families and communities about the intersection of race and gender is to move us closer to a critical consciousness and closer to our community's shared commitment to anti-racism and anti-sexism. Silver Sparrow by Tayari Jones is an incredible book that explores so many powerful themes. The book offers a special kind of validation to our precious Black girls whose voices should be heard and lives supported. It connects us to our own stories, and it teaches us the strength in embracing our truths and choosing our own path. The book also has the ability to be a connecting tool in our family units. And we know family can be defined so many different ways. I am so honored to support this initiative, and I look forward to engaging in exciting dialogue as a result of NEA's Big Read. Be safe, stay healthy, and thank you so much for including me this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Contreras.
Thank you so much. Sincerely appreciate your words. I'm going to show you a short video with an excerpt from the book.
My father, James Witherspoon, is a bigamist. He was already married 10 years when he first clamped eyes on my mother. In 1968, she was working at the gift wrap counter at Davidson's downtown when my father asked her to wrap the carving knife he had bought his wife for their anniversary present. Well, mother said she knew something wasn't right between a man and a woman when the gift was a blade. I said that maybe it means there was a kind of trust between them. I love my mother, but we tend to see things a little differently. The point is that James's marriage was never hidden from us. James is what I call him. His other daughter, Cherise, the one who grew up in the house with him, she calls him Daddy, even now. And so begins what was named one of the most anticipated novels of 2020 and the National Endowment for the Arts Community Big Read, Silver Sparrow by Tayari Jones, which unveils a breathtaking story about a man's deception, a family's complicity, and the teenage daughters caught in the middle. Well, set in a middle-class neighborhood in Atlanta in the 1980s, the novel revolves around James Witherspoon's family, the public one and the secret one. Well, when the daughters, when they meet and form a friendship, only one of them knows they are sisters. It is a relationship destined to explode with secrets when they're revealed and illusions are shattered. Well, as Jones explores the backstories of her rich but flawed characters, she reveals the joy and the destruction that they both bring to each other's lives. At the heart of it all are the two girls whose lives are at stake. And like the best writers, Jones portrays the fragility of the characters with raw authenticity. And they seek love and they demand attention and they try to imagine themselves as grown women. The Community Big Read will include a series of free panel discussions, family-oriented activities, and an art contest, and several book club discussions. This series of programs will also feature major speakers, including Dr. Sharon L. Contreras, Superintendent for Guilford County Schools, State Representative Ashton Clemens, and historian, scholar, writer, and Rutgers University history professor Erica Armstrong Dunbar, among many other activities and many other speakers, now through May 2021. Due to the COVID-19 virus, most events will be hosted online. Check out the Greensboro Public Library's website at www.greensborolibrary.org or check out our Facebook page for a list of all upcoming activities. Hosted by the Greensboro Public Library, UNCG University Libraries, and UNCG's African American and African Diaspora Studies program, the Community Big Read is a program of the National Endowment for the Arts in partnership with Arts Midwest. Silver Sparrow by Tayari Jones is available at the Greensboro Public Library.
Thank you. Libraries are the root and fruit of the community. Martha Sebastian, who ran the Free Negro Library, located at the corner of Washington Street, which is now Bennett College campus, said those words, and they couldn't ring more true tonight. Thank you all. Dr. Green, I'll turn it over to you. I've got a short promo about our October 20th program, but we'll turn it over to you to close us out, and then I can show that video.
Thank you so very much for everyone who attended. I hope that you are inspired and ready to read and to attend our events. If there is a book discussion that you would like to organize, please contact me. I am putting my email address in the chat. I'm at ttgreen@uncg.edu, and I'd be happy to work with you for free to help you with the moderation of your book event. To Representative Clemens, who spoke as a mother and an educator, certainly from our partners of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I thank you so much for partnering with us and for giving us some context. And we thank you so very much for attending. And I'm sorry, I'm sort of looking at the chat. Some people are putting some things in, so that's great. So I will turn it back over to Beth for a reminder of what is to come. Our first event as a community after this one will be our book discussion. So make sure you are ready for that. Thank you.
Bring it, read it, discuss it at the Greensboro Public Library on October 20th at 7 p.m. We're going to be sharing the story Silver Sparrow by Tayari Jones. You must be there for the big read.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.